Oh, it's been a while. So, you brought us the $5,000 gift money, right?
Hurry up and hand it over, will you? Their attitude was like that of debt collectors. After several years, I found myself face to face with my ex-husband and my sister. My ex-husband had married my sister right after we got divorced. Now, they were demanding $5,000 as a gift for the birth of their baby. My fiancé, who came with me, handed my ex-husband a noticeably thin envelope meant for the gift money. The moment my ex-husband saw the contents of the envelope and my fiancé, the color drained from his face, turning him pale as a ghost.
Don't come any closer.
He said this while trembling and tried to cling to my legs. I brushed off the pitiful man and spoke from a place even deeper than the bottom of my stomach. Don't think for a second that there's any salvation for you. With that, I walked away with dignity. My name is Sarah. I'm just an ordinary housewife, living with my adorable newborn daughter and my loving husband. We can build a happy home together as a family of 3. That was what I believed, until everything changed. Not long after, I found myself in a daze, signing the divorce papers. The reason? My husband's affair. And before I had time to process the situation or heal my heart, my husband had already remarried his affair partner. That partner was my own blood-related younger sister. Fleeing from the harsh reality, I returned to my parents' house, holding my newborn daughter in my arms. When my mom saw my pale face, almost as if I were a ghost, she instantly realized the gravity of the situation and rushed to my side. Was it relief, despair, or hatred that overtook me? The moment I saw my mom, I collapsed to my knees, still holding my daughter. As my parents gently asked me what had happened, I couldn't even muster the energy to choose my words carefully. I shared the raw events that had unfolded just hours earlier. Jacob was having an affair with Chloe, and I had no idea, even though we have a newborn daughter. Every time I let the words spill out, it felt like my heart was being torn apart. By the time I finished telling the story, I realized I was crying. It hurt. It was painful. It was unbearable. Those emotions surged inside me. My mom silently held me, while my dad decided to cut all ties with Chloe and Jacob. Chloe and I are sisters, just a year apart. Jacob was my childhood friend from elementary to middle school, and we had plenty in common. We even played volleyball together. When Chloe joined the volleyball team a year after I did, she naturally grew close to Jacob. Before long, the 3 of us started walking home from school together, and I enjoyed fulfilling days of youth, serving as the captain of the team and dedicating myself to my studies. But one day, the dynamic among the 3 of us changed. Jacob confessed his feelings to me.
Actually, I've liked you for a while. Will you go out with me?
Yes, I'd love to.
I liked him too, so I was overjoyed. When I told Chloe that Jacob and I had become a couple, her eyes lit up as she congratulated me, saying, "That's amazing. Congratulations." Jacob and I continued progressing smoothly through life, moving on to college and eventually graduating. After starting our careers, we got married, and I became pregnant with Jacob's baby. Due to Jacob's frequent business trips, I decided to give birth at the hospital near my parents' house to avoid causing him any inconvenience. Since my parents' home was quite far from the house Jacob and I shared, I understood that it would be difficult for him to visit often. In the end, Jacob wasn't there for the birth. He was away on a business trip, and I went through labor alone. I told myself it couldn't be helped because of his busy schedule, and finally, the day of my discharge arrived. Eager to show him our beautiful daughter's face, I quickly packed my things and headed back to the home we shared. I'm sure Jacob will adore her, saying how much she looks like us. I'd better make sure he doesn't spoil her so much that she starts finding him annoying. I couldn't help but smile to myself, letting my imagination run wild during the ride back. When I got off at the nearest bus stop, a brightly lit billboard caught my eye in the dark of night. Oh, that's right, this area is known for its row of motels. A world that had nothing to do with me. I gently stroked my daughter's cheek as I held her in my arms and started to head home again. Wait! Someone I knew well came into view. They weren't supposed to be here. There was no way I'd see them in a place like this. No matter how many times I tried to deny it, the person standing in front of me was undeniably Jacob, my husband. What shocked me even more was that the woman beside him was my sister, Chloe, and they were holding hands as they walked into a motel together. No way. My mind went completely blank, and I struggled to breathe. I kept repeating to myself that it couldn't be true, but the image of the two of them was burned into my memory. Even though I hadn't done anything wrong, I felt like I had seen something I shouldn't have. I quickly fled the scene and went back home. My mind was still almost completely blank, replaying the image of Jacob and Chloe holding hands. I questioned whether that area really was known for motels or if it was just a hallucination brought on by postpartum blues. But after considering all possibilities, I concluded, no, it was definitely Jacob and Chloe. Please, let Jacob be at home. In the end, I clung to that one faint hope. But the house was dark. Thankfully, my daughter was peacefully asleep in my arms. I gently placed her in the crib we had prepared before she was born, and I sat in the darkness, utterly stunned. A few hours later, the front door opened, accompanied by the sound of 2 sets of footsteps and laughter.
It's nice to go to a motel every now and then.
Yeah, staying home all the time gets boring. Oh, wasn't Sarah supposed to get discharged tomorrow? We need to make sure she doesn't find out we're living together.
The room's lights suddenly flicked on, illuminating me sitting there, head bowed.
Sarah, why are you here?
I thought you were getting discharged tomorrow.
Looking at the two flustered, I was completely convinced they were guilty. If this were just a bad dream, I wished I could wake up already. Oh, I think I must have sent the wrong date. But I'm glad I made that mistake. I glared at both of them, switching my gaze between them. You said you're living together in the motel. What's that about? Explain yourselves. With anger seeping into my voice, I pressed them for answers. Chloe pouted, hiding behind Jacob as she clung to his arm and began speaking.
I've always loved Jacob. While you were back at my parents' house, I worked up the courage to confess. And guess what? Jacob said he loves me too. Right, Jacob?
Yeah. Chloe tells me every day how much she loves me, and I've never felt so happy being loved. Spending time with Chloe now. It's just pure happiness.
Me too.
They were acting like a couple fresh in love, completely wrapped up in each other. Confessing to a married man? What kind of logic is that? While I was risking my life giving birth, and when my parents were congratulating me, they were here, playing house like this. And what about our newborn daughter? What will happen to her? I had so many things I wanted to say, questions I wanted to ask, and truths I needed to confirm. Even so, I realized it was pointless to say anything to these delusional people. So I held my daughter tightly and stormed out of the house. I retraced my steps on the path I had just taken and caught a bus heading in the opposite direction this time. In the end, I couldn't even let Jacob see his daughter's face. No, that's not it. I realized. From the beginning, he probably didn't matter to her at all. Even my decision to give birth at my parents' house. Jacob must have seen it as a perfect opportunity to spend time with Chloe. The more I thought about it, the more anger bubbled up inside me. But I had just been discharged from the hospital. That anger quickly turned into exhaustion, weighing heavily on my body. Holding my baby, I had endured a long trip. To make matters worse, it was a round trip, leaving me both physically and emotionally drained. Even so, I couldn't bring myself to face my parents, who had been so happy for me just hours earlier, and I stood frozen in front of the door to their house. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The caller was the last person I wanted to hear from, Chloe. Maybe she had cooled off a bit. Or perhaps she was calling to apologize, saying, "It was all just a prank. We went too far. One last chance." With that thought, I answered the call.
Hey, Sarah. So, there's something I forgot to mention.
What?
I've hated you ever since we were kids. You were always smart, athletic, and perfect at everything. So when you told me Jacob had confessed to you, I made up my mind. I was going to steal your happiness, no matter what.
Her laughter echoed through the phone, leaving me speechless. I didn't have the strength, emotionally or physically, to process her malice. At some point, the phone was handed to Jacob.
Sarah, I finally found my true happiness. Unlike you, Chloe is adorable. I'll pay alimony and child support, but don't even think about coming back to my house. And don't try to ruin our happiness, got it? Not that someone like you could ruin it anyway.
And with that, the call abruptly ended. By now, Chloe and Jacob were probably laughing together, thinking they'd really told me off. Completely drained, I opened my parents' front door and told them everything. Afterward, I also explained the situation to Jacob's parents, my in-laws. When I informed them about our divorce, everyone expressed their anger toward Jacob and Chloe and assured me they would stand by my side.
How could they do such a thing? I'll never let Chloe set foot in this house again.
For someone like me, betrayed by both a trusted husband and my sister, Those words were incredibly comforting. My parents and I cut all ties with Chloe. However, it seemed she realized we were blocking her calls and emails, so she began sending letters directly to my parents' house. From those letters, I learned that Jacob remarried Chloe shortly after our divorce. Word of Jacob's scandal, abandoning his wife and newborn baby, then marrying his wife's sister, spread quickly through his company. Feeling uncomfortable, he eventually switched jobs and started working at a new firm. Chloe proudly boasted in her letters, written with handwriting resembling a child's, that the new company was a major corporation. Of course, I never replied to those letters, but they kept arriving. Eventually, after I continued ignoring them, the letters stopped coming, and all ties between us were completely severed. 3 years later, with my parents' support, I've been working hard for my daughter's future. I've left those bad memories behind and am now in a relationship with Michael, a client who came to my office. We're currently living together, planning for a future as a family of 3 with my daughter. Of course, I've told Michael about my ex-husband, and he does his best to take care of my young daughter.
So that's what you went through. What awful people. I'd never do anything like that. From now on, the 3 of us will be happy together.
Michael, thank you so much. Every day, I'm filled with gratitude for meeting him, savoring the irreplaceable joy of a simple, happy life. That's when it happened. A call came to my phone from a number I didn't recognize. Was it someone from work? Without thinking much of it, I answered the call.
Hello, is this Sarah?
I instinctively held my breath. The voice on the other end belonged to Jacob, my ex-husband, with whom I had cut ties and heard nothing from in years.
Finally, I got through. Your parents blocked my calls too.
What do you want? My voice came out colder than I expected.
Your sister, Chloe, just had a baby. Isn't that great, right? Since you were her sister, you should bring $5,000 as a gift. I'm sure you've got plenty left over from the child support I sent.
His condescending attitude and mocking, half-smirking voice. The scene from that night, the day I was betrayed, flashed back in my mind, and I felt myself on the verge of losing composure. At that moment, Michael gently tapped my shoulder, snapping me back to reality. I took a deep breath and calmly put the call on hold. After explaining to Michael that it was Jacob and that he was demanding $5,000, Michael didn't flinch. Instead, he said, "Let's go meet him together." I managed to steady my voice and informed Jacob that I would be coming with my fiancé on the day he suggested. Then I hung up. Before I knew it, the day had arrived. I couldn't understand why I had to go out of my way for the ex-husband and sister who betrayed me, but I went with Michael to deliver a message I needed to say. Michael, who had insisted on coming with me, was completely disguised with glasses, a mask, and a hat. "You look like a total creep. Is that really okay?" He simply smiled slyly and said, "You'll understand soon enough." When we arrived at the place Jacob had specified, Jacob and Chloe were already there.
Oh, it's been a while. So you brought the $5,000 gift money, right?
Hurry up and hand it over, will you?
Their attitude was like that of debt collectors. Seeing them again after years, I realized. They hadn't changed. Not one bit. Then Michael, still dressed suspiciously, said, "I've got it ready. Here you go," and handed over an envelope meant for the gift money.
So, you're Sarah's fiance, right? Not even a proper introduction? Whatever, doesn't matter.
Jacob immediately opened the envelope, suspicious of its thinness.
Is there really $5,000 in here?
Just as Jacob was about to intimidate Michael over the suspiciously thin envelope for $5,000, something happened. Michael removed the glasses, mask, and hat he was wearing, revealing his face.
Was it too little?
In that instant, the color drained from Jacob's face, leaving him pale as a sheet. Something was clearly wrong.
Stay away.
Jacob stammered, stepping back in fear.
What is this? What's going on?
To the bewildered Chloe, Michael delivered a decisive statement.
I'm actually the CEO of the company Jacob works for.
What?
Chloe was perfectly composed, face twisted in shock.
As I listened to Sarah's story, I realized that the ex-husband who betrayed her was one of my employees. I already thought what you two did was awful, but now you're demanding $5,000 just because you had a baby? Honestly, that level of audacity is impressive.
Wait, this isn't.
Don't worry about it. You two can live your lives however you like. From now on, I'll be the one ensuring Sarah and her daughter are happy. Just don't ever try to interfere with us again.
At those words, Jacob clenched the envelope in his hand so tightly that it crumpled.
If you squeeze it that hard, you'll ruin the gift money. Come on, this is the gift you wanted so badly that you trampled on someone's feelings to get it. Go ahead, open it.
As Jacob turned pale, Chloe eagerly tore open the envelope. But instead of cash, there was a single piece of paper inside. It was a dismissal notice. The document outlined Jacob's termination due to gross misconduct.
Why? Is this because of today? You can't terminate someone based on personal reasons like this.
Oh, of course. This isn't personal at all. This man did enough to warrant being disciplined.
What?
Even Chloe didn't know about Jacob's behavior at work. It turned out, he had been repeatedly harassing female employees. Several of them had already filed complaints, and depending on the circumstances, Jacob could even face arrest. Chloe's face twisted even more hideously.
That's not true. I didn't harass anyone. I was just trying to communicate.
Jacob stammered in a pitiful voice, but Michael pressed on mercilessly.
That's not all. You also falsified your credentials to get hired at my company, didn't you?
Damn it.
No wonder things didn't add up. Your impressive resume and qualifications didn't match your childish behavior or poor performance. And worst of all, you had a terrible attitude toward clients as you did not understand their needs.
Michael's company is an elite investment firm that only hires the best. The pay is excellent, and the benefits are top tier for those who can perform at that level. Jacob, however, had lied about his qualifications and managed to pass the aptitude test by sheer luck, but he couldn't keep up with the high standards, which is why he often struggled to work effectively with his colleagues. It wasn't uncommon for coworkers and even supervisors to approach Michael with complaints about Jacob. Unfortunately, I've known Jacob since elementary school. I know exactly what kind of qualifications and history he has, or rather, what he doesn't have. After Michael suspected that the problematic employee was my ex-husband, he asked me to confirm Jacob's background. It was discovered that everything Jacob claimed during his hiring process, the university he attended, his work experience, and his financial planner certifications, was a complete lie, and he had deceived the HR department to get the job. The damage Jacob caused to the company was significant. He tarnished the company's reputation, inconvenienced many employees, and sexually harassed female coworkers. For all these entirely legitimate reasons, he was fired. When Michael finished explaining everything, Jacob's legs gave out and he collapsed, looking up at Michael with a face full of disbelief.
You've got to be kidding me. I have a newborn baby at home.
Jacob stammered, his face a mess of tears and snot as he sobbed pathetically.
Come on, Sarah. You're a woman, and you understand how important a child is, don't you? We've known each other for so long. Please, talk to the CEO for me.
Be quiet.
Ouch.
I brushed off the pitiful man trying to cling to my legs. When I was suffering through morning sickness, when I couldn't sleep because I was terrified of giving birth, when I risked my life to bring our child into this world, I kept telling myself that you were working hard too, that we were in this together. But it was all a lie. You were cheating with Chloe the whole time. Because while I was struggling, you were smiling with a woman beside you, weren't you? Because you chose her over ever once smiling at your own beautiful daughter, didn't you? For someone like you, don't ever think there's any salvation. You abandoned your newborn baby, and now you're begging to be saved? Don't think for a second those words will get you anywhere. The voice that came out of me was deeper, from a place even further down than my stomach. Finally, I said it. The words I had suppressed for so long, I finally said them to this man. Michael gently placed a hand on my back.
Through our lawyers, the company will be filing a claim to recover the damages you caused. The amount might end up being more than you can pay in a lifetime.
Terrified by our anger, the two of them had completely lost the ability to speak. Finally, Michael handed over an envelope containing actual cash.
According to company policy, a $1,000 gift is given for family births. Since this was issued before your termination, I'm giving it to you, but use it wisely.
Even if they used it wisely, the amount was meaningless compared to the damages they were about to be charged for. I glanced at Chloe, who was trembling with anger but unable to respond, and Jacob, still groveling on the ground. I responded to Michael's words, "Let's go," and left the scene with a resolute demeanor. Not once did I look back. Later, Jacob was reportedly billed for damages totaling millions of dollars. He also divorced Chloe. As for me, I supported Michael's company, which had suffered minor losses because of Jacob, and eventually remarried. But it wasn't over yet. I realized this when one day, I received a call from Chloe.
Hey, Sarah. Can we talk? Can we meet?
She was sobbing uncontrollably on the phone, clearly distraught. She seemed distraught, but her message was incredibly simple. She claimed, "Jacob deceived me too. I was also a victim." Having cut ties with our parents, she said I was the only one she could turn to. She wanted to meet in person and asked me to at least hear her out. Michael looked at me with concern, but I firmly nodded back, saying, "I am okay." When I arrived at the cafe she had specified, I was greeted by Chloe, who was dressed in flashy clothing, completely unlike someone who had been sobbing over the phone.
Hey, long time no see. How've you been?
"What's this about?" "Well, you wouldn't have agreed to meet me otherwise, right?" she said with a light laugh. When I asked what was going on, Chloe's demeanor shifted completely, and she suddenly became meek, saying, "I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused you." How many faces does this girl have? I could sense she was plotting something, though. It was obvious that Chloe had no intention of sincerely apologizing, but I didn't feel like interrupting her, so I urged her to get to the point. That's when it happened.
You're the one, aren't you? The woman running illegal pyramid schemes and investment fraud.
A figure approached from behind Chloe. It was the police, suddenly arriving to detain her.
No way. What's happening all of a sudden? I didn't do anything. Let me go.
We know all about you. Just come quietly, okay? Let's not make a scene.
What's going on?
The cafe staff have been telling us for a while about a flashy woman who's been running investment scams here. Today, they called us again, saying the same woman was back. She was probably about to pitch her scam to you.
Then, from the paper bag sitting on Chloe's chair, the officers pulled out pamphlets on network marketing schemes and investment scams. While I stood there in shock, 2 officers firmly grabbed Chloe by the arms and escorted her out. Later, I learned from the police that Chloe was a repeat offender. With her smooth talking and ability to change her expression on a dime, she had conned many people, just like she had manipulated Jacob. As she was being taken away by the police, our eyes met one last time. With tearful eyes, she seemed to be pleading, "Help me, Sarah. Not only Jacob, but now you too will face immense legal charges and societal shame, but that's all a consequence of your own actions." I finished my coffee, stood up, and left the cafe. After that, I never saw Chloe again, and no one knows where Jacob is or what he's doing now. At last, my ties with both Jacob and Chloe were completely severed. As for Chloe's child, now left without parents, Michael and I discussed it and decided that our family would take her in. "Children are innocent," Michael said, "and both he and my parents have been dedicated to helping raise her. Now, I'm expecting Michael's child. According to the tests, it's going to be a girl. She's been kicking me pretty hard. She might be a little tomboy," I said with a smile.
As long as both of you are healthy, I couldn't be happier.
As Michael lovingly stroked my growing belly, we heard the voices of our 2 daughters calling from the living room. Each of our daughters may come from different parents, but to us, they are one perfect family. The 3 sisters share a bond of love that ties them together strongly. All I hope for is that they continue to grow up helping and supporting one another.